Good evening. Thank you for joining us for another virtual town hall. Today is Wednesday, July 22nd. Joining me tonight is Fire Chief Colin Altman, Brian Hausch, Lisa Krieger, Mayor Pam, and uh, others may be jumping in later on. So thank you for joining us. Um, our police chief, Brian Carlson, is unable to join us today. He had um, a medical issue to take care of. So he is sad to miss his first virtual town hall since we started these town halls back in at the beginning of the pandemic. But he is watching us, and he has issued a letter that I will be reading later on. But tonight, I want to acknowledge Governor DeWine for his leadership this week. I think he might have heard my speech at last week's virtual town hall, where I expressed my dissatisfaction given the wonderful speech he gave last week and building up a case for a mask mandate, but fell short last week on requiring it. And today he has delivered for us, not just on the mask mandate, but additional things. So effective tomorrow at 6 p.m., there is a statewide mask mandate in all of Ohio. How is that different from what we currently have here in the village? Well, the mask mandate is the masks are required in indoors in all places except for residents. So we expect that not just our residents, but our visitors will adhere to that. This is much more expansive than our central business district. This would cover all of our village and the surrounding areas. The other directive, and I'm sure Chief Colin Altman has more to say on that. The other piece is the travel advisory. There are 9 states that have been added to his travel advisory. So if anyone is traveling from those states, they are required to self-quarantine for 14 days. So I think those are great policies that are in place. The village have been leaders in requiring masks, and not just require masks, but also practicing the basic protective measures that we need to do to get over this pandemic, get through this pandemic. So thank you all for what you've done, for the support and the advocacy on this effort. Before I go further, I want to give the highlights on the numbers. Today, the state is at 78,742 cases, with 503 cases here in the county. In Yellow Springs, we're happy to report that we went from 2 active cases down to 1. So as of today, we only have 1 active case. All right, I will now transition to the chief's message. The chief has drafted a letter, a statement, in direct response to the concerns and criticisms that has been raised by a strategic phone call that we made to mitigate the risk of having terrorist organizations, white supremacists come into our community and disrupt the safety and well-being of our community. So I'll read the letter. This is from Police Chief Brian Carlson. As your police chief, my primary objective is public safety. In many instances, this work is done in the moment. When the village is aware of potentially dangerous situations, we consider and measure options for response, with the goal of rendering a safe outcome for all who may be involved. Regarding the phone call made to a person threatening to attend our 4th of July parade, I was notified of a voicemail left on our clerk of court's office phone. I listened to a hateful message from someone claiming to be a member of the KKK and threatening to come to Yellow Springs to counter-protest. The message consisted of typical ignorant and hateful rhetoric. We tracked the phone number and found the source. We determined, based upon available information, that this individual posed a credible threat of violence and or disruptive behavior. I consulted with the village manager, Josue Salmero, and Public Works Director, Johnny Burns. We all have been informed of the previous day that July 4th parade had been canceled. At the time of this phone call, cities across the U.S. were under siege from persons seeking to disrupt peaceful Black Lives Matter protest. White supremacists had shown up to disrupt peaceful gatherings here in Ohio. I believe it critical that this threat be eliminated before any confrontation took place, if possible. Knowing that the parade was already canceled, my plan was to contact the caller and communicate that the parade, which was the focus of his anger, had been canceled. My hope was that this low-level intervention would cause the person to back down and not visit our community. With this intention, I made contact with the caller. I introduced myself as a Yellow Springs police officer. I explained that I listened to his message and wanted him to know that the parade had been canceled. The caller stated that they would not show up, and he stated that he was a police supporter. This moved the conversation out of the danger zone, and I responded to his statement. I'm sorry. I responded to his statement. He said, "We will stay away," with a "thank you, sir." In the words, "You stay safe and healthy." I concluded the call by saying thank you, as I would anyone who had expressed a position of cooperation. The Yellow Springs Police has been trained to work in a resolution-oriented manner, no matter who we may be dealing with and regardless of the situation. My position does not allow for personal opinion, but requires a clear assessment of the most effective path to a peaceful outcome. Educating people who hate is not an option for me in my role as chief. Resolution-oriented policing, as evidenced by treating every person we encounter with respect, is the rule. I have tremendous respect for the passion and pain behind the Black Lives Matter protests and marches. I take great pride in protecting our citizens who are moved to confront racism and to educate others. Please understand that I see my job as protecting our citizens from harm, and if I can prevent any incident from occurring, I will continue to use any legal means possible to do that. I am always available and would love the opportunity to meet with you. I was made to look at my actions in a different light through your words, and I would like to be able to meet so that we can, I hope, better understand one another's position and help me continue to grow in my level of understanding. Respectfully, Brian Carlson. Thank you, Chief, for writing your letter and your message. Now we'll give the floor to my colleague, Fire Chief Colin Altman. Colin.
Thanks, Josue. Had to lighten the mood a little bit there. That was a little heavy. Miami Township Fire Chief Colin Altman, here live this evening to talk to you about a bunch of stuff. But primarily, like Josue said, the numbers. According to Governor Mikey D, today was the second highest number of increased cases we've had in Ohio. 1,527 cases increased from yesterday. It's a lot of cases. Greene County, we're still rolling along too. As Josue said, I think we're up to 500 some odd cumulative cases, like 160 active. One here in Yellow Springs. We have one in Miami Township, but I think they're coming off the list. So we're doing well as can be. The governor, he warned us. He said, I remember it was like a week and a half ago when he addressed everyone at night. It was like that whole "don't make me count to three" thing. And people weren't paying attention. The article came out saying that Ohioans were really bad about actually wearing masks. Numbers kept going up. Suddenly then, the president of the United States suddenly turned around and said he's a patriot for wearing his mask. And then Larry Householder, the biggest impediment to a mask order in Ohio, suddenly it was neutralized. Who knew the nuclear power industry had that much money to throw around? So, mask orders statewide. Everywhere you go in Ohio, you're going to be wearing a mask. It's just the way it is. You didn't really have much of a choice because most retailers now require them, even Walmart. There you go. So what's important for us, and the travel advisory. So like Josue said, if you're coming into Ohio from one of 9 states, including, I believe, Texas and probably Florida, I think Alderon's in there. I'm not sure, Mos Eisley may also be in there too. So if you're coming from those places, you're gonna have to quarantine. We don't want their stuff here. So what do? We keep doing what we're doing. One of the things that we're seeing from an emergency management and preparedness standpoint is that people, including my own staff, sometimes are getting a little bit complacent. Oh, we're still wearing masks, that kind of thing. They're seeing it at the hospitals when people arrive that they're not doing what they should be. So we need to stay doing what we're doing. Keep wearing our masks, those fun little different ones. You can get so many cool designs nowadays. I actually saw someone walking around with a shoulder pad strapped to their face from a shirt. So, I mean, hey, I guess it works. Wash your hands. Wash your hands regularly. Sanitize when you can. Remember, the village has millions of sanitizing stations around the village. I believe even as we speak, Brian Hausch and Kevin Costner are flying in an air tanker, and they're just going to spray the entire town with hand sanitizer. So hopefully that should go flawlessly, because I think Brian's on later. What's the other thing we're supposed to do? Oh, social distance. 6 feet, people, 2 meters, for those of you who speak metric. 6 feet apart, stay 6 feet apart. And then, of course, if you're sick, stay home. If you're in one of the danger zone groups, which is pretty much half the population, think about where you want to go hang out. Maybe, spending Monday night with your motorcycle club isn't the best way to go. So stay home. Whew. So this has been one heck of a year so far. We're only halfway through, a little more than halfway through. Been nuts. We've got the COVID. We had murder hornets, and you know they're going to come back. We've got now West Nile up there in Clark County. They keep finding these mosquitoes with West Nile virus. Kanye's running for president. And we've got rogue federal agents shanghaiing people off the street and giving them to the British Navy. Little historical humor for anyone who's into the history. But we have so much to be hopeful for still coming up this year. It's important to maintain that hope. Lisa Krieger, she's got her new album of love song duets from Sicily with Cher coming out. So that's an exciting one. James Bond's got a new movie. James Bond 20, what? Oh, all right, it's been pushed back to next year, but that's okay. Because we still have Wonder Woman 1984. Wonder Woman, have you seen the first one? It's fantastic. This trailer is what? Okay, it's being pushed back to 2021 apparently as well. All right, well, we got Lisa's album still. So Lisa, please don't cancel the release of your album. It's very important. But it's hard to get through the year. And that's why I'm here tonight at the Winchester Pub here in London, with Sean, Liz, Ed, noted humanitarian, Dino Pilata, Eddie Izzard, and of course, BBC General Manager Luke Dennis. And what we've planned to do until this whole craziness can blow over is we're going to sit here at the Winchester, we're going to have a pint, and we're going to wait for this entire thing to blow over. So, without any further ado, back to you, Josue, from the jolly old England and the Winchester.
Thank you so much, Chief. I cannot wait for those movies in 2021. All right, Mayor Pam, thank you for joining us tonight.
Indeed, it is my pleasure. Good evening, everyone. I am sharing something with you tonight that was sparked at yesterday's leadership meeting. It's entitled, it's a story. I thought the only way I could follow up with Chief Altman is to read you a story. Colin, perhaps a bedtime story. So this is for you. But I do want to share something very important with you. It's entitled, What Comes Next? It's a bit of insight, actually, into our leadership team here in the village. And I know I've told you, or I've shared some of these things before on town halls, but repetition is a wonderful teacher, so I'm going to share some of these things with you again. So again, our leadership team in the village, and for purposes tonight, I'm going to call it our COVID leadership team, because it goes beyond the folks who report to the Bryan Center for work every day. I'm going to start by taking you back to that fateful day of March 13th. It was a Friday the 13th, easy way to remember it, over 4 months ago now. Some of our village leadership team who do work in the Bryan Center, led by Josue, invited about 42 village leaders to the Bryan Center gym at 7:30 in the morning on the 13th. Socially distancing in a circle, of course. Some 30-some individuals who attended first made introductions, and then we focused on our guiding question. And that question was, how can our group fill in the gaps that may exist in our community? How can our group fill in the gaps that may exist in Yellow Springs and the township? Well, what happened next, and for the next few weeks, was like, watching those little ants on an anthill when you run over them with your lawnmower, or maybe turn over an old log and they grab those little white round things, they're little eggs, and they scurry off and they go bustle about their job doing their reorganizing tasks. And so in a way, that's what we did. Everyone started about their tasks that we talked about that day. And those tasks are too numerous, and the people, of course, way too numerous to mention here at this particular meeting. But suffice to say, we did organize. Now, I'm going to take you back. Do you remember this? Colin, this is a quiz for you. Remember when this appeared in the Yellow Springs News? If you look at the 6 things there, a very important one is missing. We were so early in the game that we didn't have to do this yet. Chief, what is it? What's missing?
Could it be wearing a mask?
Very good, Chief. 100% for you, because it's the only question on your quiz. At that point, we were being told by authorities, you do not need to wear a mask because we have to be giving them to organizations like Collins Firehouse. So the Yellow Springs News posted this, and we continued. Due to the gratis of the Community Foundation, a community survey was issued to Yellow Springs, assessing the need for things such as grocery shopping, paying for food, refilling prescription medicine. Do you need help with these things? Transportation to the doctor's office, someone to talk to, perhaps counseling, other medical needs, paying for housing, paying for utilities, other financial concerns such as rent, transportation, safety needs, childcare, elder care, or maybe you didn't have any needs. This survey was disseminated in many different ways and returned to the village, to the neighborhood block contacts, or to the foundation, and we started gathering information from them. Then what resulted was, and God love Karen Winthrop. She was over on the side organizing the chamber, organizing the businesses. What are your needs? Who can do carry out, and so forth. So we're starting with that effort. Then what emerged from the surveys was a 5-page resource, quick on the draw, COVID-19 resources for the villagers. This was posted on the village side. The NBCs all had this. The volunteers had this at the ready. It was duly available. And 5 pages of resources on the things I just listed, plus supplementary websites to go along with them. So there were a lot of, in other words, point of the story, I don't expect you to be able to read those, but the point of the story is a lot of resources were being provided for the villagers. So here come the ants. Everybody's doing their job and continuing to respond to the community as need be. And our leadership team continued to meet almost daily and eventually added the town halls on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Well, going strong through March, April, May, and now into June, we cut our leadership meetings back to Tuesdays only, with a weekly town hall the following night on Wednesday. And like a well-oiled machine, The team created an additional infrastructure to respond to the COVID crisis for the village and the township. Thus it continues. Now, at yesterday's leadership meeting, when the usual question was asked by our facilitator, who happened to be Council President Brian House yesterday, he said, does anyone have anything else? My friend Township Trustee Don Hollister said, yes, what comes next? Well, we all looked at each other in our little Zoom boxes, and I decided that tonight I wanted to take on Don's question, but I wanted to lay that history out for you first before I did. So what comes next? Well, here's my short answer. We really don't know what will come next regarding the virus. What we do know is that we have here in Yellow Springs in the township, we've built a supportive infrastructure to provide to the best of our ability what might come next. And for months, Dr. Amy talked about flattening the curve. And while our Ohio curve started to flatten, now it's going up again. We have our village mask ordinance in place, and Josue just explained today, the governor came out, special alert from the Ohio Municipal League. He came out with his, say this 3 times fast, his statewide, his mask mandate for the state. So mandatory mask mandate. We are now in Bill Felker's of Poor Will's Almanac, as he says, we are in the 6th deep week of summer. And we've each learned how to best approach and deal with the invisible threats that face us when we go out our front doors. Most of us are getting to be at old pros with this. We're tired of it, yes. We are waiting for a medical solution to put an end to it, yes. But we have to remember we're in uncharted territory with this new virus, and we will all experience together what comes next with this cycle. But what I want to remind you tonight is that the team is ready for whatever comes next. And if it's not there, we will do the best. If it's not in any of those papers I showed you, or our organizational structure, we'll do our best to provide for the needs of the village and the township, like those little ants. When you run over them and you turn that log upside down, they grab what's important to them, they scurry on to new shelters, and they organize again. They adapt, they survive, and so will we. So I want to leave that with you. Don Hollister, that's my answer to your question. I took sort of a meta look at it, if you will. But perhaps Brian House has something to add on this, or somebody else is listening in. I don't know, but that was my take on Don's question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pam. And now we will hear from Council President Brian House.
Thank you, Josue, and thank you, Mayor Pam. So yeah, I guess I want to begin by highlighting that, I felt like, I got a heads up that Colin was going to give me Kevin Costner. So I realized that was not going to equip me adequately. So I have enlisted not only Angela Bassett, but a variety of amazing folks in the community, including Cindy Seek, Susan Miller, some of the folks that are on the call, to really make sure that we are getting the message out that we're serious about wearing masks. And so I wanted to, I guess, related to that, talk about my theme, which is being proactive. And knowing where we were going, I think there are a couple things that we can highlight from the village's end about how we've been proactive. Number one, we were the first municipality in the state of Ohio to make a formal declaration that we require you to wear a mask. There was a lot of hubbub about whether self-compliance or, ordinance or whatever was the way to go. But the reality was that message has been out there for, about 5 weeks now. One of the things that, has happened today is, and we're really happy about, and we've been talking about this for over 3 months, is if we're really going to make an impact, we need the support from the state, from the governor, and from public health to back our initiatives. And it's great to see that has happened today. But the reality is Yellow Springs has been way ahead of the game from the get-go. And I wanted to mention a couple other things we have been proactive about. Another one of those being making sure that we get the funding that we need to keep our budget balanced related to all the expenses from COVID-19. And I want to commend Josue and the village team for keeping on top of that and making sure that we are going to be able to support all the things that we need to do downtown in terms of messaging, in terms of hand hygiene, and everything else. That's been pretty incredible. The other thing is being proactive about gaps. And one of the things that Mayor Pam highlighted is the leadership team that's been meeting since March that has been focused in on what sort of insecurities around food and housing and other aspects that need to be covered. And I really want to thank the Community Foundation, the Chamber, and all the other nonprofit leaders and other community members that have stepped up during this time. And I think I have a fourth. Oh yeah, being proactive about doing the right thing. So some of you heard me talk about on Monday, and I thought I might as well reiterate that we have been really happy about our Be Kind approach and using a positive touch as far as getting people to do the right thing. Our officers have been doing an amazing job of offering people masks. I think many of you know about the mask ambassadorship, and that has been now for 3 weeks a really positive way to interact with folks. We've given out over 900 masks. We have been supporting our local businesses while supporting the safety of our community. And, at the end of the day, we realize that it's important that we think about this in a conciliatory, positive manner. And actually, Governor DeWine talked about this. Many have talked about the fact that to really make a difference, you have to impact people in terms of getting them to understand about how they need to care about each other. And related to that, the people need to be modeling the right behavior. So, we've talked about a few areas where we're still working on some improvements. We have someone in town who's very well known, who's kind of doing the necklace thing, and we need him to better model mask wearing. We know that we've got some spots with some of our local youth and also youth that come in from out of the community to make them understand why this is very serious and why we need to pay attention. And I will say, I've been thinking a lot about the sheriff of Butler County and someone who's made it a point of criticizing Yellow Springs and also making a point of saying that he's not going to enforce any mask issues. And this is exactly the kind of attitude that we don't need. So I want to emphasize that, Ricky Jones is in an area where, they are going into the purple zone, level 4, one of the worst. That is not the model to follow. And so I want to encourage people to not listen to folks that are denying the science and understand that if we just be kind, help each other, keep each other safe, and we do this in an intentional way, even for a short time, we can make a big difference. And that's what we're going to continue to encourage in Yellow Springs. So with that, Josue, I'm back to you.
Thank you so much, Brian. Hearing you guys having such amazing teams to do your work, I need to start recruiting team members. I'm just not as creative as you guys is telling a story. But anyway, thank you for all your messages and for all your hard work, for what you're doing for our community and the broader community. I think that to Brian's point, we were the first municipality to signal the required mask, and I think that caught on. So, and now we have a state mandate. and that would help protect us all. Okay, I will now open the floor for questions. I see that we had one come in through Zoom. Mayor Pam, that's a beautiful cardinal painting. Who painted it? And we got a response. If you are curious about who painted that beautiful cardinal in the background of Mayor Pam's screen, it is from local artist Chris Glazer. Okay. All right, we've got a couple follow-up questions. Could you please explain how enforcement will be conducted in regard to DeWine's mandate? Would people need to contact Greene County Health Department or YSPD? I'm thinking of the places outside of the business district, such as Dollar General, that have not been covered by an ordinance thus far. What are the penalties? I assume that the governor's mandate trumps the local one, and I would like to know what those are and who enforces them. Okay, we are still processing the mandate and how we gonna enforce it. Now, what it does for us is that it provides us an additional tool to do the mask enforcement. Given our home rule powers, we can do things that are more stringent than state laws. So our ordinance is still in place. We can still enforce our ordinance. What the governor's order allows us to do is just that. And the question said, what do we do about Dollar General? This gives us authority to enforce mask wearing outside of Dollar General and inside Dollar General. So we're still working through the mechanics of that, but I see it as a welcome addition to our toolbox to encourage and enforce mask wearing in the village. In terms of fines, the fine that would kick in is a public health ORC code, and those are much stiffer penalties than what we have now. There is no verbal warning, written warning, $30 fine, $50 fine that goes to mayor's court, that goes straight to municipal court. So those are the broad differences in the governor's mandates and our ordinance. So, but there'll be more to come. The police chief will be issuing his directives to our peace force on how to manage the new mandate and enforcement of those masks. Okay, let's see.
Wait, can I just jump in and just say
Absolutely. Come on in.
I mean, one thing is that everything we heard from the governor today suggests that our ordinance is in line with what, you know, the state mandate is as well, which is wear your mask when you go inside in a business and wear your mask if you can't social distance. So that's, you know, we've contemplated that, which I think is really good.
Right. Or the governor DeWine's contemplated our language into his mandate. So.
If I may, Josue, also on that same topic, the special alert from the Ohio Municipal League that came across my computer today said, we will have more information and a copy of the Department of Health order on Friday. So, or it could be sooner if they can get it out sooner, but I have a feeling, and I don't want to get into politics, but my guess is with some of the other things happening with this issues with the speaker right now, this may have been an opportune time to slide in the mask mandate if there was any question at all as to whether it was going to happen today or not. So I think that was a good use of today's news cycle, and more obviously will be coming out on this, as you said, in the next couple of days.
Thank you, Mayor Pam. Okay, let's see. Do we have any more questions? Okay, we have a question regarding the letter from Police Chief Carlson. The question is, can the letter please be uploaded to the website for review? Yes, we will circulate this letter via our website and social media. So that will be available soon, hopefully by tomorrow. Okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions, Philip? No? Okay. Well, with that, we'll close the town hall. Thank you again for joining us tonight. I hope, please stay safe and well, and see you next time. Thank you.